live. We are live. All right, cool. So we're going to get started. We have another great episode. At least I think all of them are great, right? When you're doing something, you don't do anything. We don't think that you're doing something great. So I have a great episode. I got a great title. I got a great person sitting in front of me. I bring to you the title, instead of banging on wax, we are banging on these advanced level degrees. I don't think they heard me, because when we grew up, right, it was a song called Banging on Wax, right? You had a track, I had a track, right? Ooh, ooh, right? So instead of banging on wax, we're banging on these advanced levels degrees. Thank you for another episode.
Let's get it popping, bro.
The Daddy Do-Rock Show, where I'm your host, Daddy Do-Rock, Dr. D, where I get an opportunity to interview men from various cities who have overcome different challenges and obstacles and who are doing amazing things. I am honored to have my guy, the Dr. Raymar Henderson. Man. So Doc, if you could take a few minutes to introduce yourself to those who will be listening. I think I have on different various sources. I have several people who are following, getting updates. So I appreciate it. So make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share. Tell your friend. If you really want to support your boy, tell a friend. So tell me who you are for those who will listen.
Man, Brother D. So my name is Raymar Henderson. I'm currently a faculty member at Cal State LA. I'm a tenure track member. I teach in the special education and counseling department. So I teach folks to be therapists. So for example, like you have your marriage and family therapist, you have your licensed professional clinical counselors. So you have those folks who are providing mental health services. I myself, I got my PhD from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. And Dr. Dura, what I want to do to your listeners, man, I want to share, how we connected. So I've been knowing this brother since, let's say, 2010 is how long I've been knowing this brother.
Wow, 14 years.
And for those who don't know, it's like a ripple in the water when you're really paying attention. So we were just two Black men, right, getting our PhDs, right? And we both were from LA, and we both were in different places, right? Good brother Dura was in Milwaukee, and I was in Carbondale, Illinois. And so, and I don't know about you, brother Doc, man, part of getting my degree at Carbondale, it really kind of fortified everything that I learned before that point. And what I mean is this, I know you growing up in Compton. Myself, man, I grew up in Carson, California. And part of that life is, right? Do we join the streets? Do we think what every other Black man does? Are we gonna go pro, right, in athletics? Because no one for darn sure is talking about going pro in the books. You know what I mean? So I don't know about you, brother. I'm a bona fide nerd. Brother Doc, he sees people for a living, as do I. That's just a little bit about who I am and how I got to this point.
Hey, you said a thing right there. I'm gonna write that down. Going pro in the books. And that's a word right there.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you sharing a little bit about what you just said, right? And a little bit about your story. So let's talk about it, right? So ask you some questions or whatever. And you say you're from Carson, right? So me being from the other side of the tracks, right? From Compton, you say you're from Carson. So tell me what was it like, growing up, going to Carson? Did you go to Carson High?
So I went to Lakewood High. So I lived in Carson until my 8th grade year. Right?
Okay.
This is my 7th grade year. So I spent half of my time going to Perry Middle School in Gardena, and the other half I spent going to Herbert Hoover Middle School in Lakewood, California.
Okay. All right. But still, I mean, in a sense, South Bay, right? So that's my side of town. I tell people all the time when it comes to LA is huge, but not that huge, right? So It's parts of LA I just, not until as an adult I start going to, especially, I would say west of the 110. I was a 110, 605 baby that way, right? So
Correct.
Compton, Carson, Long Beach, Lakewood, Cerritos. You talking about the west side, like, man, yeah, I ain't, I go to Inglewood, but one part of Inglewood, right? So we hit the Shaw, but that side of town, it's still foreign to me to this
Y'all.
day.
Yes, sir.
So growing up in Carson, right? So, um, and what, when you left Lakewood High School and you went off to college, right? Where'd you go to Where'd you go to undergrad?
So I went to undergrad at Sac State.
Okay.
I'm a proud JUCO baby. And,
Okay.
part of the journey was, out of Lakewood High, I went to Bethune-Cookman. Well, I didn't go there, but I was on my way there. And, some things didn't line up. And when I came back, the only option I had was to attend junior college. And so I
Okay.
turned all the other offers down, but the junior college accepted me with open arms.
Okay. And what JUCO did you go to?
I went to Cypress Junior College.
Okay, Cypress. Because a lot of people don't understand the value in junior college sometimes. I've been telling my son now, who's the 10th grade, I'm like, hey, listen, junior college, community college may be the way to go. And if I can, I don't want to say if I could do things over with, whatever, right? But I think having that option and just knowing more about it, I think it really gives you just more options, and it can really set you up for a path for financial wealth too, because you're dealing with less student loans, the financial rates. But anyway, so you went to JUCO first. What did you get your associates in?
Well, I got it in general studies, but I want to go back to something that you said, right? So, JUCO, when I went to JUCO, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Cy Edwards, um, and also to a Dr. Kim, right? And so Dr. Edwards was the first Black male professor that I had in my life, right?
Hmm.
And he taught sociology, right? And he was one of the reasons why I decided to major in sociology as an undergrad.
Okay.
And as a young kid, man, as a young kid physically, right, and as an even younger kid mentally and emotionally, I didn't quite understand what Dr. Ayers was teaching me, man, until much later.
Hmm.
Remember I used to come to class late. I had the highest score in the class until he told me, he said, "Hey, man, you come late again, I'm gonna fail you. You know what, right?"
Hmm.
I happened to come late, not because I wanted to be late, just because I was driving a little bucket around.
Yeah.
Sometimes the bucket works, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
And I remember doing the final, right? I was like the second to last person to leave. Now,
Hmm.
face the fact I was getting a B. But he told me, man, he said, "Hey, man, you cut this ish out. You know what I'm saying? You could be good." And he gave me the A, man. And from there, it was kind of taking off because I didn't see the honor roll ever until I went to
Yeah.
junior college, man. And that was the time where I began to assert my mind and not necessarily my body.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. Just another story of, you know, uh, uh, a young male in a place of higher learning, and the importance of other men being able to pour into you and invest in you, right?
Correct.
Being the fact that this is the month of June, and it's Fatherhood Awareness Month, and happy early Father's Day.
Man, that's what's up. Yes, sir.
It's so important to have those stories of men in education. Now, no knock to women education, we need them, right? We definitely need them, but I really believe men need to see men being able to, investing and pouring in is so important. I don't think that we really highlight that enough in society. The value of men pouring into other men. That's powerful. That's powerful. Um,
In many different ways, bro, that will never, well, you get it. I get it, right? Because of our training.
right,
Think about little Ray on the corner,
right,
little Dante, shooting
right.
dice. When we really kind of think about the love, the
Hmm.
connectivity, the
Right.
pride that one may feel when, another Black man says, "Good job, right? You can do
Yeah.
this.
Right.
Don't quit."
Right.
There's more to life than dribbling the ball. And
Yeah.
it meant the world to me, and I know it means the world to others.
Yeah. That's what's up. So you leave Cypress, then you go up to Sac State, and
Yes, sir.
you get your degree in
Sociology.
sociology. How was Sac State for you?
Man, I went to Sac State when it was like rural America, man.
Mm,
So it was cool. It taught me a lot, man. It was the first time I was away from the crib. So, me, man, the young adolescent brother, away from the
yeah.
crib,
Right.
around them shawties, man, looking to see what's happening, with
Right.
the shawties out there, bro. And
Right.
you in Northern California. So
Right.
as you can imagine, I had, my Lake of Pride,
Hmm.
purple and gold.
Yeah.
Taylors, we walking on them, sea
Right.
walking, what it is, you feel me?
There
And
you
so,
go.
yeah, it really kind of thinking about it was, but I tell you what though, brother, it was my first year because then I mentioned Dr. Edwards, but it was also on Dr. Kimberly Wise.
Hmm.
Dr. Wise taught me how to write, you know,
Mm,
until my class at Cypress. Man, I was a strong writer, man. And I remember, because when you're in the state system, you got to pass a writing equivalency exam. And she told me I write well for her. And I'm just looking at her in silence.
yeah.
Before she can get out of her mouth, she caught herself. And so, my time at Sac State was filled with experiences like that. Right?
Mm,
And I knew that I needed this class or I was not going to be graduating. So
got you.
kind of had to acquiesce a little bit, man. They wanted to, uh, unfortunately, the the resolve that I had as a young black man,
Yeah.
really impacted a little bit.
Right. Mm. So you did undergrad. You were there at Sac State, what, 2 years, 3 years?
A year and a half. So
Okay.
I did a lot of my work, my JUCO work, and I just kept grinding. So
Man, you was crushing it, man.
I was crushing it, bro.
Yeah.
Spring
Uh,
2020, spring '03 was when I graduated with my undergrad.
Man, look, you all studious. I can see why you're alpha.
Hey man, A5 all day, ice cold. You know what I mean? December 4th, a very cold Tuesday. And for those who don't know, there's Divine Nine. So there's a space for fraternities and sororities. But there can be only one, right? And that's
Right.
our fraternity incorporated, bro. You
You
know it's
say the only one. I ain't mad at you. Now, did you pledge at Sac State?
nah, brother. So
Okay.
I actually joined Alpha when I was getting my PhD.
Okay. So in
So
grad school.
I joined in grad school, bro.
Okay. Okay. Well, good stuff. So you graduated undergrad around what year? So I graduated in '03 from undergrad. When did you graduate?
Oh, three, brother.
Okay. So yeah, so you're 99, class of 99 baby as well then.
98, good brother.
98. So a
Yes,
year,
sir.
okay. So you leave Sac State, and then after Sac State, what's next?
I left Sac State. Unique journey, man. Left Sac State. And so, I was with a family, man, the Smiths. What we would do is we would play basketball pretty much every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Smith, he coached at Center High School, and PJ, Jamil, we had all the guys, right? So we had, all skill levels from professionals, like some of the Sac King players to some of your top, high school players in the nation.
Right.
Come we hoop. And there was a brother there was playing. He played for Sac State. He was played overseas basketball, and
Okay.
so like every other black man, well, not every other, but most black men, right?
Mhm.
And I was still chasing a hoop dream, and
Okay.
so I'll never forget, man. We had talked one day after open runs. I was like, "Yeah, man, connect me with your agent." So,
Yeah.
I asked her the question. I said, "Hey, yo, how much y'all make, man? What's the cheese looking like, bro?"
Right.
And he was like, man, he said he was playing in Mexico at the time, if I'm not mistaken. He was like, man, like 65, 70K. I was like, man, that ain't Israel, man. That ain't ish.
Right. Right.
And then I made that decision at that particular time that I was going to go get my master's.
Okay.
So I took a year off, and then I went
Hmm.
back to get my master's.
Okay. And what you get your master's degree in?
I got my master's degree in sports psychology,
Okay.
Cal State University, Long Beach.
Okay. So now he has your PhD, and you're a tenure track professor. So,
Yes.
for those who are listening, right? What does tenure mean? What does that mean?
So tenure means so when you work in a so for everybody listening, I'm gonna use a couple things interchangeably, but I'm gonna explain them. So I'm gonna use ivory tower is analogous to college, right? And so when you join the ivory, I'm in a tenure track position. So tenure means that it's a process that one goes through, essentially to have a lifetime job, right? And so in the process that one goes through, it's typically composed of three components, right? Your scholarship, your teaching, and your service, right? And
Mm,
so to get tenure, right, you have to show yourself approved by a panel of your peers, and your scholarship typically ranging from both and or publications, meaning you write scholarly work that is peer reviewed. You're publishing and presenting on that work, right? Your service to your institution. So service can range from serving on committees to doing some things that I've done called the Barber Shop Talks, and then your teaching evaluations, right? So tenure is like a covering for anybody who is tenure track. Once you get it, essentially, Dr. Dural, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot get fired. It's like you have a job for life.
wow, that's all right. So here it is. You apply for a tenure track job, and boom, I got a job for life. Now, how hard is it? Doing those three components, right? The scholarship, the teaching, and the service.
Mm. So I want to connect to what you asked me about earlier, good brother. And I know you and I, we've been knowing each other for quite some time. Thinking about the ivory tower, uh, it comes at a cost, brother, right? And so if I'm being honest with you, now I don't know, I do know when I know sometimes people they want that utopic candy coated message, but I'm gonna give y'all what me and my boys call the medicine, right? I'm gonna give y'all some stone cold cough syrup, right? And
Huh.
so
Some lean.
some lean, well, the cough syrup that's supposed to help you, man, not turn you up, you know what I'm saying? And so um, it wasn't until my PhD, Dr. Durod, I really recognized, how political working at a university can be.
Yeah.
And for your listeners, man, Dr. Durod at the time when we both were going through, man, spent a lot of nights on the phone with each other, talking, man. Sometimes some tears were shed, and just really wondering if the PhD was really worth it. So
Mm,
to the question about tenure track, it's hard.
yeah.
It's hard just to process on its own merits. But what can add some extra layers of complexity, some extra layers of difficulty is how you navigate. Because at the end of the day, you are being evaluated by your peers. And so, especially for someone who loves to study Black people, who wants to look at all issues pertaining to Black folks and mental health, man, that's not everybody's taste. Some folks are like,
Right.
man, why you want to study them? And we'll make things a little bit easier for you if you're a little bit quiet on some of those things, right? And
Right.
so, today there's been some bumps and bruises with regard to tenure. Uh, on the other hand, just like we learn in the streets, man, you got to, as my father would say, once you sell yourself, you can never buy it back, right? So it's all
Mm,
about standing tall. So
yeah. I think the young folks call that standing on business, right?
standing on business, bro, standing on your square, right? Because
Yeah.
if you don't stand on your square, it's like the OGs in the set, man.
Right.
Once they some blood in the streets, you don't stand on business.
Right. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap, man.
It's a wrap. And I think so I appreciate that, right? So knowing that to get tenure, right? Because it's not knowing that you have a job for life, they're not just going to give it to you,
Nah, no, sir.
right? So you got to, it's some blood, sweat, and tears that go into that. And I know you love Black folk, right? I know you love studying Black folk. That's, it's one of the reasons how we connected, man. Just, um, two young Black males, first generational, Black males trying to get, advanced level degrees. We were in a world that was foreign to us.
Correct.
Both attending PWIs, predominantly white institutions, from, in a sense, South Central LA. And it's like, how do we navigate this? I tell
Correct.
people one of my experiences that I talk about in graduate school was trying to really understand. I had to start questioning myself, like, who am I? Who am I becoming? At one point where I was just disgruntled because I was trying to fit in a society that
Correct.
was, in a sense, created for me the way that I felt.
Say
But
that.
what was happening for me is, as I start really truly discovering who I was in this space, was how do I be my authentic, how do I show up in my authentic self in a space that's not used to people like me?
Mm. Uh, that's a lot, brother. And I mean, if I'm really being honest with you, I know, part of the national discourse is on, prisons, right? And,
Yeah.
how people feel. And I say this a lot, and I say this often, you know, I'm just a couple of choices away from somebody who's on the other side, right? And so when we think about how we navigate, right, it's not out of the realm of consciousness that, some of our brothers and sisters on the other side, they just made a couple choices different, man.
Yeah.
So, and when you talked about it, another thing I learned too, Dr. Durod, man, is when I think about what you just said, it's easy to blame through a white gaze. It's easy to say, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just work harder. And racism is never examined, right? When I think
Mhm.
about my father, when I think about your father, when I think about my mother, when I think about your mother, right, there's just some opportunities that were not afforded to them, not
Right.
because they didn't want it, right? And one thing, I do some work in the community, and one thing I ask our young people, Dr. Dura, is raise your hand if you want to go to prison. To date, I never had anybody raise their hand, right?
Mm.
Now, when I asked that same question to a room full of 12th graders, unfortunately, some of our young brothers and sisters already have records, right? And so,
Right.
so when we think about, or when I think about what that means, it means that we owe it to our four mothers and fathers and to our sons and daughters that are coming behind us, right? To
Right.
really say, you know what? These are some of the behavioral anchors and the developmental markers that one will experience, right, as you're pushing forward, this undergraduate degree, right, this
Right.
master's, this
Right.
PhD, right? And so, in essence, you talked about mentorship without saying a word, and the
Mm.
importance of having someone who knows the path prepare that path for you.
Right. I think that goes to the third component of the tenure, right, is service. I think one of the things that you mentioned, and we've even talked about it before, and I look forward to coming down to, in a sense, the Barber Shop Talks that you guys have.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
so talk about being of service. I think
Mm,
as a leader, I try to be a servant leader, right? I think that
mm,
goes back down to just who I am as a human being. I think two things about me that I am who I want to be and where I'm more comfortable being is authentic and transparent. And I think the reason why I am authentic or want to be and strive to be more authentic and transparent is because the best leaders that I've ever come across in whatever domain, whether it's a professional domain, a personal domain, a financial domain, a spiritual domain, the best leaders that I gravitate to are authentic and transparent.
Mm.
And I think to me that correlates to being if I want to be a servant leader, I have to understand who I am, be able to articulate where I am. So therefore I can meet people where they are to help them go to the next level. So that's one of the reasons why I just really love the concept that you have as far as the barbershop talk. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that if you could?
Man, absolutely, brother. Hmm. Man, started out, coming from Carson. I used to go to our people's barbershop with Tracy and John right there, kind of across the street from the Carson Mall. And it was my father who took me to the barbershop. So as a young kid, Dr. Dewar, I was always watching. That's one of my God-given abilities, I do believe, right? Is that I have the ability to really observe and connect dots. So at that particular time, I watched my pop, right? And the barber's like, hey, bro, what you doing, man? You getting them grades, getting clipped up, getting fresh, right? And then these brothers start pushing the boy line back. And my dad was like, nah, man, I'm not going to be spending my blue collar dollars for somebody to be pushing my son hairline back. So then I came victim to the bowl cuts, my brother. Pop started giving me them bowl cuts, bro. And I was like, oh man, but it was a part of growing up.
Yeah,
That's the genesis.
right.
Now, when you ask me about some of the work that I've done at Fresno State and what I do currently at Cal State LA, man, the goal is to create a space, right, for young Black men. So I kind of have two ways that I articulate it, my brother. The first way, let's say, to my colleagues in the ivory, right, there goes that word again. What I would say to them is that this is a space for social emotional expression in a milieu that is bidirectional, that
Mm,
both faculty and staff, right, share with Black men, right?
yeah,
So, and this is open to community members as well, right? Man, one of the most impactful barbershop talks, if I may share, I won't share any names. Right? It was a young brother with locks, right? With dreadlocks, now locks. Remember, that's a whole separate show, right? But the brother came in and he said, Dr. H, do you mind? I got something I need to share. And his brother was almost in tears, good brother. And,
mm,
and I was like, man, brother, come on, good bro. Absolutely. He said, man, these people, i.e., white folks, right, are telling me that my hair is not professional. He was a senior too. He was a industrial engineer. He said, man,
okay.
I committed years of my life to get this bachelor's. And now, because of my hair, I'm not professional. So it was in the barbershop talk that we had specific and intentional discussion on the Crown Act, right? On racism, right? On the expression, right? Of your Blackness, however you see fit,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so now to the brothers in the community, right? To the undergrad, graduate, and faculty and staff Black men on campus, the barbershop is a place for us to shoot the breeze, right? As Black men.
Mm,
And there's a space. And Dr. Dewar, I don't like to use words like safe space, but I took it upon myself as an OG, as somebody who comes from the soil. Hey man, this is a set, right?
right.
And you ain't coming on the set banging all that, man. We're gonna have it's on site if that's what you think you're gonna get. If that's what you think you're doing, right?
It was a peace treaty set.
It was a peace treaty set, right? It was a
Okay.
place where you can come in, you could talk, we could keep it 100, right? We have brothers who are returning citizens come to the barbershop talk, right? We have brothers talking about their sexual orientation in the barbershop talk, right? We talking about political stuff in the shop. We had barbershop talks in an actual barbershop, bro, right?
Nice.
And so it was accessible to the community. And man, it was just beautiful to see, man. So you had a lot of guys coming from a lot of different lived experiences.
Hmm.
We even had, and I was intentional when I talked to the school administrator. This space is designed for Black men, but we had some other folk coming in too, man. We had some Latino brothers coming through there. We had a couple Filipino brothers coming through there, right? But the discourse didn't deviate from the Black experience. So, you know, and it was impactful, man. A lot of those brothers I'm still in contact with today.
That's what's up. Well, please keep me posted. As a community member, I would love to drop in. I don't have no hair to get cut, but I would definitely
Hey,
like to come in.
hey, bro, we doing it, man. And it's I want to give a shout out to Dr. Joe Burr and Dr. Bush, man, to my
Okay.
colleagues on the campus of Cal State LA, man, who really are standing in the gap, making sure we get everything we need to be successful. So I want to give them a shout
Okay.
out.
So you mentioned earlier that you are a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha, right? Fraternity Incorporated, right? What is it? 1906.
Correct.
Um, so how has being an alpha man or a man of the Alpha Phi Alpha organization impacted your belief on service?
Mm. So I have a unique connection to Alpha. Uh, so when I was getting my degree, so a lot of those conversations we were having, bro, when I was at SIU, the Black men that were at SIU, for the most part, let's just say 95% of them were alphas,
Okay.
unbeknownst to me, right? And so when we thinking about service, it was right before my eyes that I saw these men serve in the community, right? Providing the safe haven that we just talked about with the barbershop talks for a brother who was like, yo, man, some of these white folks bugging on campus, man. What do I do? Right. And they sit me down. Most oftentimes it involves some food, right? And then we would talk about strategy to push through, right? And some of these brothers would be, some of these brothers are more seasoned in the ivory.
Hmm.
So part of their service was setting up infrastructure for students like myself, right? And so there was a service, brother, where we would be protesting, right? There's one thing I'll share with you, and your listeners, brother, Dr. Dural, is that, and I stood over where Michael Brown laid to rest,
Hmm.
his final moments on earth, where I stood right there. And, that was so impactful for me as a Black man first, right? So it's not necessarily an alpha service. It was just me as a Black man who is an alpha. On the other hand, when I was protesting, some will say protesting is an act of service, but again, that may be another episode, right?
Yeah.
When we were out there protesting, I had my letters on, and a few brothers asked me about what those letters meant, right?
Hmm.
And I said something similar to what I said earlier, top of the show, is that, brother, just because I'm getting a PhD, that doesn't elevate me above you. We out here doing the same work together. And
Yeah.
Alpha is a place. It is service is one of our aims. Right? The love of mankind. And so, I always struggle with this question, brother Dot, because I've been doing it since I can remember. Right.
Yeah.
And Alpha as a platform, as a brotherhood, we do it too. It's like second nature. Right.
Yeah.
I don't do it to get to shine. I just
Right.
do it. I don't. I just do it because when I look into the eyes of a kid, the eyes of a mother, the eyes of a father, and I got the tools to help intercede. To me, that's what
Mhm.
service is, bro.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's been a pleasure catching up with you, and I really am thankful that you gave me the opportunity to sit down and talk with you. I know we've been talking about this for a minute, and we finally got a chance to get it done. If or as we close, if you can have final words to a potential listener, somebody, a young man, or could be a lady or someone who knows a young man who's struggling with direction, trying to find their purpose. What advice would you give that young man or those individuals who are connected to that young man?
Hmm. Hmm. A lot of things come to mind, but the two things that come up for me is if you don't quit, you'll finish. So speaking of alpha, you know, the process of becoming a brother of alpha is one of where we have to learn about the history. We have to learn about different things, right? And I remember, you know, one of my brothers saying, "If you don't quit, you'll finish." But I also think about it. uh, I had the blessing of being mentored by Dr. Joseph L. White. And I think about, I spent 13 years with him, Duras. So a lot of the time we spent getting to know each other. A couple years before that was when I met Dr. White. And the reason why I bring him up is because to date, now I love my father very dearly, right? Like we talked about my dad, he's a blue collar Marine. And, you know, he didn't get the degrees. On the other hand, where Dr. White comes in, he saw greatness in places
Yeah.
where I didn't see it, right? And he made sure that I didn't quit, whether it be through conversation, through support, with some money, with making sure that I got new experiences as a young scholar, right? So to the mothers, to the fathers, to the brothers, to the sisters, to the aunties, to the uncles, when we talking about young Black men, particularly, and young Black women, like when we tell them don't quit is one thing, but when we show them and provide the resources not to quit, right? With what you have. Now, I'm not saying that you got to go out and get a whole nother job to demonstrate that. It could just be, you know what? Keep pressing and really mean it though, right? Because oftentimes when we say those types of things, right, it's coming from maybe a place of being insensitive, right?
Right.
I know you were up in Milwaukee, at Marquette, and you lived through some things, right?
That I did.
You know, in the same experience for me in Carbondale, and I think also, brother, you would agree with me as well, is that because we're getting degrees, life doesn't stop.
Hmm.
So being a father, make sure you're stewarding your family, so forth and so on. All of those things continue as you're advancing. I don't know about you, brother Rob, but I mean, there were some times where I felt like quitting, man. And
Without
I
a doubt.
you
Without
know,
a doubt. And like you said, if you don't quit, you'll finish.
correct,
I had a mentor that I met. He was like a big brother to me, and he would tap in from time to time. And he told me, he says, the PhD program is a marathon, not a sprint.
correct,
And then he says, when you feel like quitting, close your eyes, see the lights at the end of the tunnel when no light's visible.
correct,
And the nights where I couldn't see the back of my eyelids because I was up for whatever reason, I thought about that light at the end of the tunnel, and it got me through. And I share that now with mentees and individuals that I have the the honor to be a part of their life and their journeys. Because as you say, service, ensuring that we're constantly connecting with the future is so important. And that's what I share, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel when no light is visible.
Correct. Correct. You know, and that stuff, you know, very stated very eloquently, my brother. You know, but I really want to harken back to, and we talk about being a light, you know, and sharing the light, and you know that light drives out, you know, dark forces, man. You know, that's the process too that one has to
Yeah.
learn. Right? It's one thing to say, see the light, hey, but there's another thing to say, hey, when you get stuck, call me,
Mm.
no matter what time it is. Right?
Yeah.
That's a part of seeing the light. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and that's the beauty of, you know, you don't quit. If you don't quit, you'll finish, right?
Right.
It's knowing when to tap in,
Yeah.
you know, and standing on business, as the young people would say.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
And standing on business, it goes a long way than just doing some foolishness and putting up your hands to fight.
correct.
A lot of times you can fight mentally and emotionally. And I think you fight emotionally by giving yourself an opportunity to feel the emotions and feelings that you naturally feel instead of trying to avoid them. Because a lot of times we try to avoid what we naturally feel and we don't get opportunity to experience it. But the body keeps score. And then
It
so
does.
if you don't feel those emotions, they'll seep back up in a different way. So it's like I always close with the saying that I believe in. It's okay to be not okay, but it's not okay to be not okay alone. So if you get to the point where you need to talk to somebody, reach out to somebody who will listen. Uh, Call different support lines. Call your local, whether it's a local religious organization, uh, community organization, your local therapist. But reach out. Reach out. You have questions, feel free to shoot a message to us. We can always help you try to find the therapist that works best for you. And not everybody needs therapy. Sometimes people need a life coach. Sometimes they just need to talk to a friend, you know?
Right.
So I really appreciate you, Doc, for joining. It was a pleasure catching up with you
No
and
doubt.
allowing us, to hear your story and the major things that you're doing over at Cal State LA.
Hey, man, thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah.
And keep pressing forward, man. We love to get you down here, man, to the Barber Shop Talks. They will be going on next year.
Bet.
And
All right.
I just want people to know, man, they're not like us, man.
Huh.
You know,
Ah.
yay, you know what I mean? So that's what it is, big dog.